All right, today we're going to be talking about the very anticipated, the very hyped, and thought-provoking movie Heretic. This is directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods, who have done one of my favorite Halloween movies of all time, which is Haunt, and also the Quiet Place movies. I was really excited for this one personally, and speaking of thought-provoking, I'm also very excited to talk about our sponsor today, Masterclass. Masterclass offers thousands of lessons from over 200 of the world's best in their subjects, from things like arts and entertainment to business to my personal favorite classes, writing, all for only $10 a month that's billed annually. The classes help inspire you to grow to be your best no matter what you're trying to improve upon, with their exclusive insights and tools and inspiration that you won't hear anywhere else. Like I said, I've been loving their writing classes, specifically the lesson from R.L. Stine. You might have heard of him before, or Goosebumps. He has such good advice on inspiration and how to overcome writer's block, and I love his advice on where to actually get ideas to create stories and how he really creates a title first and then goes from there. I think that's really fun and really works for YA especially. Also, I've been loving the class from author Dan Brown. I feel like his insights into creating a compelling story is so inspiring to me, because I obviously want to write more on the horror side and he writes thrillers, but he has such good advice on how to create that tension. And I've been listening to these podcast style on my walks in the mornings, which is so nice that I can listen to these in like bite-sized sessions because each lesson is separated into chapters, so I can always listen to them on the go. They've just been so inspiring, and I've already saved and made note of all the other writing classes that they offer on things like voice and writing vivid characters and world building and things like that, all from experts in their field. So make sure to check out Masterclass today and turn your aspirations into achievements. Click the link in the description down below for 15% off. All right, let's get into my review of Heretic. I'm not gonna lie, right off the bat, this is a hard one to review, okay? And we're gonna be doing spoilers because of that, because a lot of the things I want to say and have critiques for are gonna be possible, well, some of them is straight up spoilers. Sometimes this is gonna be a little possibly spoilery too, though. Two young missionaries become ensnared in a deadly game of cat and mouse when they knock on the door of the diabolical Mr. Reed. Trapped in his home, they must turn to their faith if they want to make it out alive. Now, my thoughts on this movie are really interesting because I feel like I couldn't stop thinking about it, because obviously it is very thought-provoking. It's philosophical, if you will. It's about religion and faith and what is the one true religion, right? So it should be thought-provoking, but I don't know if my thoughts about it and like how I was thinking about it is what they were actually going for. Because the more I thought about it, the less I liked it. And that usually is not the case. The longer I sit on a movie is usually, you know, a sign that I will like it more the more I think about it and like discover things about it as I'm thinking about it, you know what I mean? I just feel like, okay, first off, I liked this movie, okay? We're just gonna get that out of the way first, but I do have critiques and thoughts that sound like criticisms, and they are, but I feel like they didn't go all the way. They could have pushed this movie so much further. Like, I wanted to question everything. We're getting deep and philosophical and talking about religion, and to the depths that we're talking about religion, I wanted to be questioning everything, like down to the characters themselves and their intentions. Like, I wanted to question reality itself. Maybe that's too much to ask for a movie like this, and it can just be a simple, straightforward, slightly thought-provoking movie, which gets more thought-provoking. And, you know, you do question things towards the end of the movie, but everything, I just feel like everything was kind of predictable. The way they set everything up was kind of cliche, okay? I was into it, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed the process of watching this movie. I was, you know, enjoying the monologues and the discussions and things, and it was definitely more of like a psychological tension than true horror, but I was enjoying it. But I do feel like everything that they set up was done in a way that made it very predictable. So that took out a little bit of the tension for me. Now, the first half of this movie was great. I really enjoyed the setup and the build up into discovering Mr. Reed's true intention and his true character. Obviously, if you've seen the trailer, you kind of knew right off the bat that it was going to go that route. And Hugh Grant's character was fantastic. I thought he was really well written, and I loved Hugh Grant's performance in this as Mr. Reed. It was very believable and eerie and uncomfortable, but still he had that charm in the beginning, which makes for a great kind of villain. But I wanted so much more out of this movie. Like, I wanted to, like I said, question everything. I wanted there to be metaphors galore, okay? Because of the monologues, it had me believing that, you know, we don't know really what is happening. And you technically don't, but when everything was kind of answered, which to be honest, it was answered it's not my favorite answer. And I feel like they did over explain things and could have left us questioning a lot longer, because obviously we don't really know when we're going into this what is actually happening. But I feel like then they just reveal it to us. They're just like, and here's the answer, instead of like leaving that vague, letting us kind of come up with our own theories about it maybe, and like links. Maybe that would have been, I don't know. I feel like they were playing it safe because they wanted to appeal to like a wider traditional horror audience, when I feel like they could have really pushed it and left a lot of things up for debate and left a lot of questions at the end, and would have made for a really fun discussion. But instead they answered all their own questions, and thus was just like, all right, I guess, sure, that's one way to write the story. I liked so many things about it. Like, I liked this take on the religious angle, because obviously we are in the era of religious horror movies, and we haven't really had one like this one specifically, where this man is like confronting missionaries on what they believe is to be the one true religion and like his perception on it, because he studied theology. So he's like confronting them and like bombarding them with all of this information and these monologues about his studies and his beliefs and stuff like that, which I found fascinating. I think that's really cool, and a cool way to talk about religion in a horror movie setting. It wasn't your traditional like Immaculate Conception kind of, or possession exorcism. You know, we've had a lot of those, and some are great and some not so great, but this year especially, I feel like this was a breath of fresh air when it came to the religious horror that we've been seeing. If we're gonna do religion, let's do it like this and do something a little bit unique and different. So I really enjoyed the fact that it was unique and different from the other movies that we've previously seen this year. And, you know, like I said, I like a lot about this movie. The performances were fantastic. The casting was perfect. The two missionaries, great, very believable in their individual roles. And I don't want to say that there aren't any metaphors in this. There are definitely some kind of more obvious ones. I don't know, like the Dante's Inferno kind of, you know, there's some messaging here and there that is, you know, a little bit straightforward. I like to think this movie's straightforward. My partner disagrees, but I said this movie's straightforward. To me, it just reads and feels and plays out like a traditional horror movie. And that's not necessarily bad, but I was definitely expecting bizarre, especially when I saw the dollhouse. I thought labyrinth. I thought weird, possibly supernatural, you know, and just had different expectations for it. And, you know, again, that's on me. I still enjoyed my process of watching it, but I definitely reduced my rating the longer time went on. And I'm glad I didn't review this right away and instead 2 days later. And, you know, I don't want to necessarily get into the debate of what is scary, but I didn't find this movie particularly scary. It is a psychological movie, okay? There's a lot, there are a couple things that are technically scary, and I was excited when they began happening, and I was like really into that. I was like, I want to see more of that. If you know what I'm talking about, you know. It almost felt like two different movies. Like the first half is all psychological. You're like hanging on every word of Mr. Reed and trying to catch little slip-ups here and there as he's talking. And then in the second half, it's a little bit more stuff's happening, like on screen, like actual things are happening and moving along. And I don't know, I didn't necessarily like the balance of things, but it was like a grabbing movie. Like I was definitely hooked into my experience watching this movie, and that's why my feelings are a little bit conflicted. And this movie in particular is very difficult to review because I feel like I'm gonna get comments that my thoughts are all over the place, which they are, because I still don't know how I feel. I feel like I'll never fully know. I think I need to rewatch this like one or two more times to really form a final opinion about it. Not that I ever need to, because like, it's just a movie and it's for entertainment purposes, and I was entertained. So it achieved its purpose for me, but I feel like it wanted to do something with it and it ended up not. So I feel like it wanted to achieve more than it did, especially with that ending. So let's talk about it. It left me wanting more. Let's talk about why that is the case, and we'll talk about the ending. So let's get into spoilers. So the difference between the rest of the movie and the ending is that the ending really leaves it up for interpretation. There are a lot of ways to look at the possible outcomes of what actually happened. And while I loved that, and I liked that they ended it in a vague sense where we are questioning things, we didn't have any of that in the rest of the movie. Like, you could have added that element to more of the movie. And they attempted to here and there where you're questioning, is that woman a prophet? And then the girl guesses, well, you killed the other one, replaced her body, blah, blah, blah. And then moments later, it's revealed that she guessed correctly. And it's like, we could have just left that up for interpretation and not known if she was right or not. But I feel like everything was revealed to us along the way. And I would have rather had questions leaving this movie. Like, this is one where I feel like it's okay to leave with questions because of the overall concept of the one true religion. And we're talking about religion in this way. It's okay to have questions at this one, you know? I just think it defeats the purpose of trying to come away with a movie that is very thought-provoking when you answer everything with logic. And I feel like that's not the purpose of this movie, except for the ending. The very ending, when Sister Paxton leaves and finally escapes because Sister Barnes came back to life. And again, there's a whole conversation about resurrection, which we'll talk about in a second. But Sister Paxton leaves and escapes, and a butterfly lands on her hand. And we previously, found out that she said, when I die, I want to come back as a butterfly and I'll land on my family's hand, not their arm, not their head, their hand. And it'll be clear blue skies, and things like that. So that's exactly what happens when she leaves. So my first thought was that's Sister Barnes, because she told this to Sister Barnes, and now Sister Barnes is, landing on her hand, but then the camera cuts and there's no butterfly anymore. And it's like, then we're questioning, is it all in her head? And I don't really know. I don't really know how to feel about the ending, because I like that it's up for interpretation. But again, I wanted all of the rest of the movie to also be like that. I think the ending would have been more impactful if we kept that same theme throughout the movie of questioning and faith and things like that, and relying on faith, because I feel like the ending really concluded that concept with faith, because Sister Paxton probably believed that she would always get out alive. She fought back really hard, and then Sister Barnes comes back to life. Maybe because Sister Paxton believed that she would, because she wants to believe in that resurrection. And of course, it wasn't true resurrection because she ended up dying again. But I will say, I love the idea that Sister Paxton actually died in the basement. I know that's dark and morbid, and honestly, I feel like this movie needed something like that, something dark and morbid. The trapped women in the basement were definitely, it definitely got dark at a certain point, but I like the concept that Sister Paxton actually died in the basement, and what she is actually experiencing was heaven because she had true faith. I don't really like the reality, if it actually did happen, the reality of Sister Barnes coming back to life, or, having that one final burst in order to save Sister Paxton's life. I don't love that. I don't think she was necessarily truly resurrected in that sense. I feel like she was always still alive, and eventually came to and saw Sister Paxton struggling with Mr. Reed. So, I feel like there are many interpretations to that. I don't want to believe in the reality that Sister Barnes just had all that energy to kill him and then died, I just feel like that's a little bit boring and very, very horror tropey. That's a true horror trope of you think someone's dead and then they come back to save someone. That I don't like that. I don't want that to be true. So I'm going to pretend it's dark, but I'm going to pretend that Sister Paxton died actually. And that didn't happen. And she went into heaven. That's, maybe that's actually a happy ending. It just was a little too tropey, Like I said, it kind of read like a traditional horror movie. And I wanted weird. I wanted something else, something more. I wanted more from this movie. You know, I wanted supernatural elements. I wanted demonic elements. I wanted Mr. Reed to be like a powerful cult leader or something, or he has actual powers of resurrection maybe. I don't know. Again, you start to believe that maybe he does have the power of resurrection. Maybe this is just me and it was obvious all along, but then it reveals very shortly after that he actually doesn't. So again, they answer all of the questions that we would have had, which is what a movie's supposed to do on a technical level. But when you have a movie like this, I'm okay with a few questions, and all of it can be explained except the last scene. And again, I don't know if I love that. I liked the movie as a whole. The ending was good, but when it ended, I was just kind of like, oh, I did not know how to think or feel about this movie for such a long time. I just like sat there and my partner was trying to talk to me about it and I just didn't have thoughts. I had no thoughts. And that's not necessarily a good thing, I think, when you leave a movie. I want to feel like passionate about something. And I didn't with this one. Like, I think I give it 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it. It was well done. I really liked it. And I loved the performances of it. But yeah, I did. It left me wanting more from this. But of course, I would love to hear your thoughts on Heretic. If you have seen it, make sure to leave a comment down below. I hope you enjoyed, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.